Here are 11 things to know when you are a beginner crocheter. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Hannah, and today I'm going to be telling you guys some things that I think would be useful to know if you are a beginner crocheter. So I have my notebook and I wrote down a list of things to tell you guys, and our background is a little bit different. We have some bees here. This is just what I kind of put together for our background today. So let's get started. So number one, our topic is going to be safety eyes. So when you are a beginner, your projects may turn out looking like this. Well, they probably will turn out looking like that, but that's just how it is when you're a beginner. That was like one of my first projects, and so I would recommend not using safety eyes on all of your first projects because it's kind of a little bit of a waste, and because you don't want to use them all on projects that you're not completely happy with. And that also brings us to our tip number 2. For a long time, I bought just like those little like small 24 packs or whatever of safety eyes from Hobby Lobby, and eventually I bought just like a big pack of safety eyes from Amazon, and that was a lot nicer because it was like $8 or whatever for like 300 safety eyes. Oops. We're gonna just pretend you didn't see that. For like a bunch of safety eyes, and they've lasted me a long time, so I would recommend getting a big pack of safety eyes. Number 3, when you're following a crochet pattern, I would recommend actually counting your stitches at the end as the pattern suggests, because that will actually make sure your amigurumi turns out good, which I never did because I was too lazy. So I would recommend counting your stitches at the end, and that will make sure your amigurumis turn out cute. So and also not just amigurumis, like any crochet project that you're doing. So number 4, if you are going to be doing amigurumi and you're going to be using plush yarn, let's just say plush yarn is expensive. So I bought a lot of balls of the Sweet Snuggles Light from Michaels, and those are kind of expensive, so just remember that plush yarn can get pretty pricey. Tip number 5 is I recommend buying plush yarn when it's on sale, or anywhere, and it's just kind of nicer. So Michaels will always have like their weekly sale. It might not always be great sales, but it's a sale. So, and especially if they're having like a 50% off sale, like take advantage of that sale and get some yarn. And it's really useful because, you know, you can just stock up a little bit and get some yarn when it's on sale, because it can get kind of expensive buying yarn when it's just like regular price. So for number 5, I would recommend learning about yarn weight. So you might not even know what that is, so you know, it's a great time to learn, but it's basically like the thickness of your yarn. And there is like a whole like range of sizes. I will put like a little chart up on the screen for you. But you could also, I'm sure there's like YouTube tutorials explaining it, but it is useful to memorize that, so that like if you're shopping online especially, you can like go find in the description like what the yarn weight is. And when you're following a pattern, a lot of times they're going to tell you what yarn weight you will need for the project, and it's really helpful to know what it's called. So for number 6, I think that freehanding any kind of project is a great way to learn, because it's a really fun thing to do, and eventually you can actually start designing patterns yourself. So like, you just like, if there's something you want to make, something relatively simple, just like try freehanding it and see what happens. It's also like it's just like really fun when you make something that you actually like. And yeah, it's really a nice way to learn is to freehand and stuff. So for tip number 7, make sure if you are designing the pattern, your first pattern, or just like freehanding something for fun, write down every single step you do, every stitch you do. And now this is like, you're probably going to be a little more advanced. You're going to like know more stitches. You're going to know how to like probably write patterns a little bit, but you're going to want to write down everything you do, because if you don't, you are going to regret it, I promise. So just make sure you write everything down. And so for number 8, you're going to want to learn to read patterns in general. Just when you're like starting out, you're going to want to learn to read patterns. So there's a lot of like tutorials, charts, just like stuff telling you how to read patterns, and it's basically all abbreviations. Everyone, if like your pattern says single crochet, double crochet, they're not going to write it out in words. It's going to be abbreviated, so like SC for single crochet and DC for double crochet, but you're going to want to memorize those, so it's going to make it easy to read patterns. And if you're following a video tutorial, they'll a lot of times put it up on the screen for you, and you can just fly through those patterns without having to watch them do it step by step in the video. You can like kind of just look on the screen, and that makes it a lot easier to follow video tutorials. So for tip number 9, I would recommend not buying patterns right away, because there are so many free patterns for like everything on YouTube, for amigurumis, just anything. And I've only bought one pattern before on Etsy, and I didn't even like the pattern. And so there's just like so many free patterns on like that, on YouTube, just the internet in general, on that Ribbler app, I think that's how you say it. There's like a lot of free patterns on there, I'm pretty sure. So I would just recommend like trying to find what you want as a free pattern before trying and purchasing a pattern. So when you're a beginner, you are going to want to practice on cheaper yarns. So like you probably won't want to go out and buy like a ton of expensive plush yarn at first. It's gonna be a good idea to get just some regular acrylic cotton yarn, and it will be relatively cheap, depending on the brand, of course. But it's a lot better to practice on regular yarn compared to plush yarn in the beginning, because then if you mess up, it's not that big of a deal. Of course, like, you know, the Red Heart Super Saver line, I'm pretty sure it's like big balls of yarn for cheap. That's a great way to practice for not too expensive. So for our next tip, I wouldn't recommend buying stitch markers. They're just kind of, I mean, they're nice to have because you can get them in bulk, and then, you know, when you're constantly losing them like me, there's just always backup. But it's not quite necessary, because great alternatives are bobby pins or like safety pins, and usually you have some of those floating around your head. So that is basically all of my tips and advice for you guys today. I hope this was somewhat useful for you. I just thought it would be a nice video idea to hopefully help some of you guys. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. If this was helpful, make sure to give it a like and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next week. Bye!